Hi, everybody. So, just a little footnote today. How are you today? Doing okay? It's a wonderful day. Every day is a wonderful day. So, just a footnote. We are still continuing in the Gospel of Mark. Last week, we stopped at verse number 21. We stopped at 21. But then we went on to do verses 21 and 22, if you remember, when we started this little ministry. I decided to skip from chapter 1, verse 1 to chapter 1, verse 21 and 22. Do you guys remember? That was the launching of the Whole of You series, bringing you the gospel in its bare form, along with holistic training. As Jesus launched his campaign, I tied the two together. Me launching my campaign and Jesus launching his campaign, which is, then they went into, this is verses 21 and 22. So what we're going to do today is we're skipping that. If you would like to go through those two verses, you can go back to the beginning of, I guess it's been maybe 6-8 weeks ago, where we started, and I will put a link somewhere for you to be able to get to that. So we're just going to move quickly because I have a lot to do, as you can see today. We're going to move to verses 23 through 28. So in the caption today, I asked the question, what do you think about biblical times when everybody seemed to have been either demon-possessed or had the devil in them? What's your understanding of that? How do you feel about it? Do you think that devils still exist? Do you think that people can still be demon-possessed today? So it's one of those areas where you don't really have an answer for it. And it's okay. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to say, you know what? That's one part that I am just going to tuck away, and maybe one day I'll have some clarity on it, or someone will give me some clarity on it. But it's one of those things that has been argued over and over and over again, and I think we get too focused on the argument in and of itself, and we miss the point. Because remember, one of the reasons that we're starting in the Gospel of Mark is because of the simplicity of Mark. Mark skims right over that, but he accentuates the important parts of this. And so we're in this section where Jesus cast out an unclean spirit, and he did that numerous times in his ministry. And so let's just start here on 23. Now there was a man in the synagogue with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, "Let us alone. What have we to do with you, Jesus Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be quiet and come out of him." And when the unclean spirit had convulsed him and cried out with a loud voice, he came out of him. Then they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, "What is this? What a new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And immediately, his fame spread throughout all the region around Galilee. So again, this is very detailed in the Gospel of Matthew, Gospel of Luke, but here Mark just squeezes down to the important things. And so I want to do the same thing, because this is what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out, in this world that we live in, with so many people being Christians, why is there so much hate? Why is there so much evil? Why is there so much what appears to be demon-possessed people and demonic spirits and just folks with the devil up in them? And that's because a lot of the disciples are not walking in the way of God. I was talking to my pastor this morning because somebody jumped on me the other day again, saying, Dallas, not everybody's disciplined to that level. You get to a point where I mentioned to him, is it discipline that we require? As disciples, we're supposed to be disciplined, but is that the reason, or is that what we're going to use for our lack of accountability? Because at some point, you've got to ask yourself, if you are coming off of Good Friday here, coming off of Resurrection Sunday here, where we just are kind of really focused on what was done for us, you know, how we got our salvation and the love that we ought to have for God. At some point, I don't know that it's discipline that makes you act the way that you should act as a disciplined disciple, more so than just an understanding and the knowledge of the gospel. If you really truly understand the gospel, if you believe in what you're selling here, then that is going to have you behave in a manner that requires you to be disciplined or looks like you're disciplined. But it's not the discipline, it's your love for God. So can we say that when people just can't get it right, don't want to get it right, time and time again, is it a lack of discipline or is it a lack of understanding of the gospel? And so what Mark does is he teaches us just how to move in a spirit of worshiping and honoring the God that chose us. We didn't choose him. He chose us. He's our sovereign God, and we can call him friend, you know. And so at some point that should shake us. Some point that should help us understand what our chief meaning for being here is, and that is that God is glorified in us. And in order for him to be glorified in me, I have to act in a certain manner for that to come to fruition. And that's because I love him more than it's because I'm disciplined. So just something to think about. And in this passage, Mark allows us to think about what's going on here. And immediately, his fame spread throughout all of the region around Galilee. Why is it that his fame on this incident, remember, he's just launching his campaign as well. So he's just launching the campaign. And that's why it says immediately his fame, because before this, obviously, before he launched his campaign, he was not known. And so let's just put this in quick perspective of what's going on here. What's going on here is that the Pharisees were the ones that taught. The Pharisees were the ones that were the leaders. These were the knowledgeable people. And when they spoke, they always had to speak on the authority of God. They had to speak on the authority of that in which they were representing. Where Jesus spoke on his own authority, that was the main difference in which they were looking. Yeah, they were struck in awe by what he did, but even more so the way and the manner in which he spoke. And he spoke because he is God, and he speaks with the authority and the revelation of that. And so that is what really triggered. But we want to focus on the demons here. So the demons are talking about almost everybody during the times of Jesus. There were not everybody, but there was a lot of the miracles that were performed were miracles being performed to cast out unclean spirits, demon-possessed people, people with the devil in them. And so the question is what was that? Are there devils? Are there demon-possessed people? And if not, then who is Jesus talking to? So there are lots of thoughts on this, and so you have to be careful and who you hook your trailer up to. And so let's just talk about why and what the spirit of the times was during that particular time. Every Jew believed in demon possession. There are several accounts of why and where it came from, but the majority of the ones, the more valid ones, are systemic from Genesis 5, when it talks about the sons of God came, and then they mingled with the daughters of man, and that begot the demon-possessed children, and they continue to go on, and they live in the dark places, the caves. They were prominent for the lonely traveler, the person that traveled at night. They were known to be in the desert, i.e. the howling desert. Childbirth, when a woman was giving childbirth, that was an area that they would be in. So there are like these areas and these characteristics that were known and declared, so to speak. And then there were the male demons, and then there were the female demons. The female demons typically were around children. Well, that's why you say the children have the guardian angels over in Matthew 18 chapter. They talk about that. And so I'm just saying all of this to say that there had to be some validity to it. That history says that in the various cemeteries there, if you had a cemetery of 120 bodies, at least 6 of the bodies, there was found to be a trypan, is what they call a small hole in the skulls that were found in the cemetery. And so think about it. During that particular time, you didn't have a lot of surgeons, and you definitely didn't have a lot of surgical procedures just because of the costs that could have been associated with that. But if you had even 6 out of 120 skulls that actually had a hole in the head, that shows you that that hole had to have been done at the time that the person was alive, and then that it wasn't a hole that was large enough to say remove something out of the head, but simply that that hole was put there in order to have an avenue for the demon to escape the body. And the person who had the hole removed from his skull would actually have it, would wear it around his neck. And so what does that say? It says that if there were some people, 6 out of 120 is a pretty decent amount. And if there were people, not just people that were willing to have that done, but surgeons, educated, knowledgeable people that were willing to do that, it says that there had to be a lot of validity around whether or not demons were real and whether or not they actually could possess a person. And so we get beyond that and we begin to believe and understand that. But then it gets to the point where, how does Jesus fit into this? So regardless of what you think or what you believe, you have to say that Jesus talked to the man and he says, come out of him. So he was talking to someone, whether or not he believed that or he just simply believed that the person that had the demon in him believed that the demon was in him. And in order to heal someone, you have to deal with them where they are. So that's a strong argument as well, is that maybe that's why, but Jesus is the all-knowing God. He knows everything. And I don't think that story after story, miracle after miracle that talks about demon-possessed people, I don't think that that was just a figment of someone's imagination, the way that it's written in the text. So fast forward 20 centuries now, where are we? And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about whether you believe in demon-possessed people, whether you believe that devils exist. Let's talk about behavior. Let's talk about that thing that makes us not do the thing that is the will of God. And so whatever you believe, you have to believe that it is diametrically opposed to God's will. So that thing, that spirit, that whatever is inside of you that tells you to go to the left when you want to go to the right, outside of the flesh in and of itself. We're talking about something internally that has, it's one thing that externally your flesh, the lust of the 5 senses, sees something, wants to go after it. But that thing that's inside of you, to have strongholds inside of you, is the position that these people were in. Notice that this particular man said, immediately he said, what do we have to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Remember, he's just beginning his campaign. The demon that was inside of the man had the knowledge of who God was, had the understanding that the Messiah that was to come would be the one that would crush the seed of the serpent. So if he can recognize Jesus as the seed of the woman, going back to Genesis, and that entire, what was the crime, the punishment for the penalty of sin with Adam and Eve, it was that the seed of the woman eventually would have to come and crush the head of the seed of the serpent, and the serpent would crush the heel of the seed of the woman. And so that lays the chart for the entire Bible in terms of the enemies against one another. And so here is the seed of the serpent inside of this man, recognizing the seed of the woman, and says, whoa, understanding that this is the only person that has the power to destroy him, the demon. And so if the demon is within the man understands that as well, and the man is trying to be freed of this. Might be a little complicated for you to get. You'll get it later on after you think about it. But this is deep when you think about that, because this man made a disturbance, and Jesus went to take care of the disturbance. The disturbance that I want you to see is that this thing that he's battling with internally had enough sense externally to go and get help. And so whatever that thing is inside of you that keeps you or prevents you from doing the right thing, what we have to do is look to God. So I'm talking to people every day. So when I'm talking to you now, sometimes it may not be as clear because I'm thinking about situations that I've been in, conversations that I've had with people that are depressed, people that are anxious. There are a lot of people right now that are depressed. There are a lot of people that are anxious, yes, because of the pandemic. But I'm talking about the people that I'm having discussions with that are believers. And a lot of it has a little to do with the pandemic in and of itself, but just the circumstances, things they're dealing with in life in general. And you have to be very trepidatious in terms of how you speak to them, because we want to always love and encourage, but at the same time, we've got, because when people get to these stages, it's always about, well, I'm trusting God and I'm believing in God. Yeah, we trust and we believe in God, but there's another piece to it. There's that piece that we have to, do something, and this guy recognized that this is the man that might be able to save me. This is the man that might be able to change this internal stronghold on me. And how did he know that? Because he had enough knowledge to know this is Jesus of Nazareth. So sometimes that knowledge we find it in the living word of God. Here's our revelation. As believers, we believe that God has all power and authority over us. Therefore, we ought to be obedient to him because he is our Lord and our creator. He is the one that created us. So that is where we get our authority, or we know him to be our authority. And then the revelation comes through the word of God. And so whenever we're depressed, whenever we're anxious, whenever there are things that are unsettling to us, just open the word of God and start reading it. It is the God that says, seek me and I will provide all of your needs. And so that's what I'm getting to. So what is it that keeps us from being well holistically? People talk about, I want to be well, I don't want to be sick, I feel this way, I feel that cancer is wiping us out. We still talk about the pandemic and COVID, but cancer is still just taking people out of here like flies. And so what does that? That's that thing that's growing inside of you uncontrollably. Cancer goes from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4, not miraculously, but by growth. How does it grow? How does anything grow? It has to be fed. I talk about flowers every week. They're beautiful, aren't they? But they've been cut from their life source. And when they've been cut from their life source, it's just a matter of time before. Now, these flowers are amazing. These are the same flowers that I get every week. And I've showed some of you the flowers on Facebook. I mean, the roses just kind of like peak to an amazing thing. But no matter how beautiful they are, how beautiful they even start to get later, I actually snapped them and put them in a smaller cup. But the life source has been cut off. And so they're going to die. It's inevitable. And they're going to die within a couple of weeks, for sure. It is the same thing with the human body. When we cut our life source off, we are perpetuating, or we're inviting death of ourselves. And we live and die at the cellular level. So how does cancer go from one stage to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4? What does the doctor say? Your cancer has grown. Well, how does anything grow? It's not science, it's not rocket science. It's science, but it's not rocket science. It has to be fed. And so what we have to do is we have to cut off that life source. And we know there's a lot that we don't know about cancer, but there's a lot that we know about life and a lot that we know about science. Whether you've gone to school for engineering or not, we all learned in basic science that cells do 2 things, basically. They divide, proliferate, and they rest. And when they begin to divide uncontrollably, then that's what looks like cancer. So what happens and what disturbs that resting period? That's the thing that we focus on. And so in a mucus type of environment, that thing is able to breed and grow. But when you cut that off, then it becomes not dead, but it has an inability to continue to grow. And so there's a lot that we don't know about that, but we have to focus on the things that we do know. That's why I love this passage, because there's a lot that we don't know about demon possession, devils, whether it's true, where it came from. But there's a lot that we do know. We do know that when something is inside of a person where it takes on this type of internal stronghold, then it takes control over the individual, you know? And that individual feels helpless. And so we have to learn how to live life and to get better by focusing on the things that we do know. We do know that garlic has something in it called anisin. The sulfur content in this makes it almost impossible for things to grow in this type of environment. And so how do we connect the dots there? We're in the Gospel of Mark, which is very simple. It's not a lot of explanation. It's kind of like, do this, do this, do this. So I'm just going to tell you that it is very difficult for things to grow in an environment that has the characteristics that are held in garlic. Trying to keep this very simple for you guys. And so what would I do if you were my aunt with cancer? I would say, Auntie, I need you to chew on a piece of garlic every day and watch the miracles happen. And we've done just that with a lot of our clients. So we know that's with garlic. We also know that with green herbs, sure, we use them. They bring a lot of flavor to foods, but the medicinal properties associated with herbs, unbelievable. Unbelievable. In fact, here's some parsley. So 3 sprigs of parsley has more vitamin C than an entire orange. It has more iron than 2 ounces, like a small plate of spinach. It has more vitamin A than a plate of carrots, which is very high in vitamin A, just from chewing on 3 sprigs of parsley. And so that's the little decorative piece that you find on the meat platters at parties and stuff. I'm always going around picking up the parsley and chewing on it. Not only that, it freshens your breath. So if you have garlic breath like me all the time because you're eating garlic all the time, all you have to do is chew on fresh parsley. And then your breath won't necessarily smell like garlic, but you'll still smell like garlic because garlic is a cleansing agent as well. And if it's a cleansing agent, then it means that it's helping clean your elimination channels, and the skin, being the largest elimination channel, is a two-way membrane, which means that if it's working effectively, then if you're consuming garlic, it's coming out of your skin and your pores anyway, which is why you really have to ask yourself about the validity of wearing a mask. That's just another sidebar. And then my favorite is cilantro. So it has fresh cilantro in it. It has fresh dill. So we've picked a dish to do today for you that is going to have healing qualities to it, that's also going to taste great. And so this is the piece that I'm saying, yes, we're trusting God. Yes, we're believing in God. But what are we doing on our part? We have to start doing some things that are going to be instrumental in getting us to a point where we can be well. You know, it's not about this or that. I just ask people, you just want to be well, and you need to understand what makes us well and what makes us unwell. And then that way we're not anxious about a virus or cancer or anything else, because we know what makes us well, what makes us unwell. And when we're unwell, we know what we need to do to make us well. And basically, you're going to find it in your kitchen. Garlic happens to be the twin sister brother for red onions. And so this particular recipe, you can use green onions. It's fancier to use green onions, but again, the medicinal properties associated with red onions are amazing. Now, we know that green foods clean the blood. So when we look down at this immediately, we know that we have agents that are going to be cleaning our blood. We know that red foods move the blood. So we have some red stuff going on here. That's why I have red on today, because when you think about the devil, you think about red. You know, it's funny because people say, ooh, you're so devilish. And then people get excited about that. We like to be called devilish. What is that? I mean, we've just gone so backwards in life. You know, this is the only red outfit, the only red garment I have in my house. So I kind of like put this on just to kind of emphasize the whole devil demon thing. But at the same time, it's interesting that that devil, that thing inside of you that can take control of you, is also the color of the thing that can keep you alive and make you well. It is also the same source that redeemed us. It is the blood. It is the blood that has the power. It is the blood that makes us well. And it is the blood that red foods move very nicely. And that's what we need to do, is to make sure our circulatory system is working. So we have red beets. Now we have red beets. Red beets are called red beets. However, we look at them as a burgundy food, and burgundy foods are directly associated with the kidneys. So anybody that's being threatened to be going on dialysis or anything like that, get yourself on a beet regimen of doing 8 ounces of beet juice a day. It's very potent. You cannot do more than 2 ounces at one time. So you want to do 8 ounces a day, so that means that you're going to be drinking about an ounce or two every 2 hours or so throughout the waking day. Then we have red cabbage. Again, the medicinal properties associated with red, green, any cabbage are huge, because there's something in it that bacteria feeds off of. And so when you have stuff in your system that needs to be pushed out, you eat cabbage, and then it kind of grows. Therefore, you're going to have bulk matter that leaves the body, which makes you very well. Remember the cabbage cleanse diet? They called it the cabbage diet years ago. Well, that was the main premise behind it, is the ability to have so much bulk matter removed from the body. Then we have fresh carrots. I always tell people on a daily basis you should have carrots, and you should have beets, and you should have celery every day in your salads. So the carrots are filled with potassium. The potassium controls the intracellular fluid, the fluid inside of your cells in the body. And so when we're not well, when we're unwell, it's because our cells are imbalanced. And what keeps them balanced is the fluid on the inside matching with the fluid on the outside. The fluid on the inside is controlled by potassium. The fluid on the outside is controlled by sodium. And a good source of sodium would be coming from celery. We're not going to put celery in our soup today. This is actually going to be a cold soup. And then we have more beets, but we have the orange colored beets. When you have the option of getting colored foods, when you have the white cauliflower, it also comes in a purple cauliflower, it also comes in an orange cauliflower. The different colors have a variety of characteristics associated with them. The antioxidants are pretty good for various colors and things. Then we have fresh ginger. Ginger, for years, has medicinal properties associated with the gastrointestinal system, cleansing out the stomach, bringing, peace and calm to the stomach. Then we have jalapeno peppers. They're green, so again, they're going to be cleaning the blood. But the peppers, the seeds, a lot of people will skin peppers and take the seeds out, but the seeds in and of themselves have a huge amount of medicinal properties associated with it. And the vitamins and minerals associated with peppers are also good. So we're using some jalapeno peppers just because we have cabbage and beets. We just want to do something to bring out the heat in this particular dish. We have avocado, your best source of fat for the heart. The heart's best source of energy comes from fat. Your best source of fat comes from the avocado. And you always want to get your avocado where it's ripe. That's why I held on to this one. You want to make sure that you can press down into it and see your indentation. When I was in Whole Foods today, they actually had signs that say, this will be ready to eat in 1 to 2 days. These will be ready to eat in 3 to 4 days. And I'm like, do people not know that? So anyway, that determines whether or not it's ready to eat. Once you slice it, you'll be able to easily peel the skin back. If not, then it's not ripe. We have pink Himalaya salt that we're going to use. These are some bitter things here, so we're going to bring that down. We have fresh lemon juice. What do lemon foods do? They're natural laxatives. But as an acid, this is going to be really nice to balance this out for us. We have cold-pressed olive oil, about 2/3 of a cup of that. So we have oil, great for the joints, lubrication. So everything here has a healing, cleansing, detoxification purpose to it. And then we're going to put it all together. What else are we going to do? So the thing I wanted you to just see is how easy this is. So this prep time might have been 20 minutes. But honestly, I always, so if I'm going to make a salad, I would go grab some mixed greens, put them on a plate. Then I'd put some chopped red onions. I'd put some fresh herbs in. I'd take some shredded cabbage, some shredded beets, some shredded carrots. So here's the same thing, basically, that I'm using for my daily salad. So it would behoove us to make our own salad bar at home, where we just kind of pre-prep, do some work at the beginning of the week, makes the next 3 days pretty easy. I know if I already have my salad prep done, then I'll be more keen. Well, I'm going to have a salad anyway. But I think you would be more keen to eat a salad if it was already halfway done. That's why people like to go to the salad bar. So if we do this on a Sunday evening, just chop up enough for 2 or 3 days, sprinkle it with some lemon juice. I think we'll be in good shape. And then we can do it again on Wednesday. So this is a simple dish. It's a raw dish. Why do we want to do a raw soup? We want to do any raw dish because of the amount of live enzymes that are in the food. The thing that's going to keep us well is the enzymatic action. And so our body doesn't develop enzymes anymore. For years, up until maybe 13, 14 years old, we had a reserve bank, but then we just kept taking out. We weren't putting anything back into it, so it's depleted for the most part. And so if you are not eating a lot of live foods, you want to go somewhere and get you a really good source of enzymes, digestive enzymes, so that you can actually take them when you're eating your meals. Otherwise, your food just isn't going to have the ability to break down the way that it needs to when you're eating those other foods that are not live foods, meat and dairy products. So when you're eating live foods, you're feeding your body that enzymatic action, which does a multiplicity of things outside of just keeping you well. It helps to retain the youthful aspect. It helps to retain the vitality for energy put out. It's just a million things and keeps your immune system really, really strong. So this is pretty simple. It's a raw soup, and basically we're just going to take all of these ingredients and we're going to put them into this container. You can vary how much you want. I love cabbage, so I put way more cabbage and shredded carrots. You don't have to have the shredded beets if you don't want to. I use a ton of herbs. You could usually get away with maybe a 1/4 cup. We don't use recipes, we just put things together, but you can never have too many fresh herbs. And so what does this look like? So we are going to have to bring the blender, the juicer out, but I'm going to show you how easy this is. So you chop up some red cabbage, and people are always inboxing me. Well, what's the recipe? This is the recipe. So put your camera on pause later on, go back and pull the video up and zoom in and see what we have. And then just, a lot of times it's, if I have a half a cabbage or a 1/4 of a cabbage left in my refrigerator. A lot of times I'm making stuff because it's the end of the week. I'm going to get some fresh groceries, and what do I have that's going bad? So I just want you to see how simple raw food is. And trust me, this is one of those dishes that people eat and they're just like, oh my God, that was wicked. It's funny when people talk about live food. They use that description often. They say it's wicked. It has a wicked taste to it. And it's because just like that demon that's inside and doing all kinds of crazy things on the inside, when you eat good raw food, look at those colors. Just putting my hands in this just makes me feel wonderful, like the sun is shining and the sun is not shining. Like I can feel the ocean breeze on my neck and I'm not at the ocean. That is what they say that crazy lady is on now. And then you put your herbs in. This is just so simple. A kindergartner can do it. My sister and I were laughing about something on last evening. I'm telling you, I think I posted something on Facebook and I said, laughter is truly medicine and will help to make you well. But good food is real medicine. So you just see I put in the shredded beets, the shredded carrots, the shredded cabbage. Now the red onions, you can go with lots of onions or not so many onions. Usually do about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And I did that just for your purposes. I usually just chop up my garlic. I very seldom mince my garlic. But if you're sharing with people, they're not really in with biting down on a piece of garlic like that. So, same thing with the jalapenos, One of my girlfriends, Karina, was like, girl, I bit into a jalapeno in your thing. Yeah, and it brought you to life. So we throw in the jalapeno peppers and the fresh ginger. We have some dill that was in with the cilantro and the parsley. But then I have a small amount of fresh dill that I'm going to sit to the side just so that we can make our dish look pretty. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle in. Seems like a lot of sea salt, but that's less than a tablespoon, and look at this entire huge container. Then I'm going to put some avocados in as well, but I've also reserved avocado for on the side as well as an apple on the side, because presentation is huge too, especially when you're dealing with folks that aren't accustomed to eating raw food. Now we have anywhere between 1/4 cup and 1/2 cup of fresh lemon juice, and I always just put the seeds and the pulp in as well. Okay, I'm going to move all of this stuff out of the way. You know, you gotta love live video, because I decided that we're gonna go ahead and put in, this is about 2/3 cups of organic cold pressed olive oil, just in case anyone wants to know that you can use regular olive oil if you want to. Now here's the magic. Now this is a first, not a first, but this is fresh squeezed orange juice. And what is this? 64 ounces. That's almost a 1/2 gallon. I think I may have had a cup out. So I'm actually going to mix this 1/2 and 1/2 with beet juice. And typically, you do not want to mix fruits and vegetables, simply because one is going to balance out, neutralize the other when you're doing that. But in this case, because everything is raw and we just really have to get you to eat all of this together, we're doing that. So here's the deal. I have 5 juicers. Do I need another juicer? No. But someone gave this to me a couple of months ago, and it's just been sitting here because it's the lightest weight juicer and the easiest to move around and maneuver, you know. It's just, which makes me think it really probably is good for about 1/2 cup of juice and nothing more. When I'm juicing, I'm usually juicing something that's going to end up netting me 2 or 3 quarts, couple of gallons of, you know, I'm like doing a bunch at one time. So we're going to turn this on and see if it works. But basically, this is our soup already together. Oh God, I wish this is the only thing about live video is you guys can't smell this. I mean, the aroma is healing. If I were depressed, not having a great day, just in a molly-colly kind of mode, and I came in and I could smell this whenever I'm doing live demonstrations and raw food preparation, people that come in kind of cantankerous, they're smiling in a moment. I mean, this is transformative. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be ye transformed by smelling aroma. This is aromatherapy. So what does color therapy? We have color therapy here. We have aromatherapy. And when your hands touch it, we have feeling therapy. So I'm just going to see if this thing works. But what I have here are 3 beets, 3 red beets, medium-sized beets. You know, not really big. You don't get a lot of juice from beets. So we're hoping to get about a cup of beet juice. And then I took orange beets and shredded them and put them into the salad. You could have also had done it with red beets. So I just wanted more color and some variety. There's a slight difference in the taste of red beets and orange beets. So it's going to be a little noisy for just a minute. I have no idea if it's going to work. I have no idea if I'm going to be looking a hot mess. Oh, wow. This is fun. And I also wanted to just give the analogy of when we seek God, this is what He has the ability to do. Just break us down color because it's going to still be you, but it's going to be a transformed you. And we can get a lot more use out of the transformed you. How many people are going to sit there and eat a bowl of hard beets? Not many, but many people, some people, may drink the beet juice. So you saw how many beets I put in there. That's how much beet juice you get. Not a whole lot. So that's the other thing about juicing and blending, is that when you want to get all of the content from your vegetables or your food, we use blenders a lot to do, I do, for juicing. So instead of me putting my apples into a juicer, where I have never used this, so somewhere in here though has to be the pulp. And because they're red, okay, let's just see here. Yeah, so there it is. And so what we do, because we're crafty, is we can take the beet pulp and we can take some of our sprouted berries or some of our whatever and put it all into a food processor together and make like beet crackers. That way we're utilizing the pulp, where a lot of fiber. That's what the difference between juicing and blending is, that the juicer will extract the pulp, the juice from the pulp, whereas in the blender you get all of that. So basically, I'm telling you. Think about the ingredients that we put in. So you're going to add a little more because we want it to be more on the soupy side. So you can kind of like drink it and chew it at the same time. And that's how I balance out the orange juice. Don't want to use, again, I just talked about the potency of beet juice. You don't want too much more than a cup, even when you're going to add more ingredients, like I obviously added a lot of cabbage and that kind of thing. So we'll just take this bowl. And so I guess we will need a Isn't this fun? So we will take our soup and since I haven't really eaten today, and so that would be there. So if you're having friends over, you'll take your avocado. Remember I said you should be able to easily pull the skin off when it's ripe and ready. My nails are hideous, I know. I was just working out in the garden this weekend, pulling out the furniture and crap. It's all good. So you just kind of put some on the top of your individual plates. Do the same thing. The apple, these are pink ladies, so they have a very sweet taste to them. And then you take just a tad bit of your fresh dill, and we have amazing soup. Can you see that? Can you see that? And so when we're eating like this, whatever that thing inside of us that tells us in the morning you don't want to get up and exercise, you can have an extra donut. When we eat this, It's going to be just like Jesus said, come out of him. This is going to make that spirit that's keeping you from being the best you that you can be just falter. You know, it's the doctors that often say that there must be a God, because when they see people, the disease and the sickness it's like something. It's not like a disease or sickness. It's like this thing, like this demon, like this possession. You know, you ever sit down and talk to doctors? It's an interesting conversation. And they'll say that you can see the contrast for those that believe in God and they pray and they talk about the belief that they have that God is going to heal them. And it's like there are these two forces competing internally, you know. And so I believe that, yes, that's definitely the case. And I believe that we just help to augment that positive force when we're eating and, you know, taking care of our bodies in a manner like this. It's just always perfect. It's just like the thing that can't go wrong. You don't use any measuring cups except for the olive oil, just because. And it just does this thing. You can feel it just working in your body. It's amazing. And then I can smell the stuff. I can smell it coming out of me. Just amazing. And I'm going to eat that. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be like, I'm looking at the ceiling, because that is what it does. But it's a great thing. It's a good thing. I'm telling you, whatever is making you not feel well, to make this, and this is a lot, and you saw the small amount of ingredients that we use, you're not going to eat more than a bowl of this. It's just too strong. I mean, it's just, you would be like, I mean, just a couple of spoonfuls. The appetite would be suppressed, because it is nutrient dense, as you saw. But again, the healing and medicinal property. And when I say medicinal properties, imagine going in for an acupuncture session. You don't need to stay on the table for 45 minutes with those needles in you. I mean, it does its thing. It balances the body. You feel great. You're like charged, you know. And this is what I'm so glad that we had this time together, because now I know I'm going to be eating so well. I have a tennis tournament coming up this weekend. So this is just what the doctor ordered. And so, are there demons? Are there devils? We don't know. But we know that there's something that keeps us from being the best that we can. There's something that constrains us and tries to restrict us when we're trying to do the will of God and we're trying to be the best that we can be. And so all I know is that the man came looking for Jesus, and we need to be looking for him. In our times of discouragement, when we're losing hope, when we're losing faith, when we are just anxious, seek Jesus through his word. This is God. The living word of God is God. Seek his word and do those things that we know are good for us. Let's not focus so much on what we don't know in life, but we know foods. I can tell you emphatically that this kind of stuff heals the body tremendously. In 3-4 days, you will feel phenomenal, transformed. Give it a try. You saw the simple recipe. If you have any questions, inbox me. Thanks for spending some time with me. We'll see you in 2 weeks.